Hi, I am Dan. Today I'd like to give you a rough idea about concrete volute pumps. Growing economies, climate change and population growth involve new challenges for societies. For things like irrigation, water supply, flood control or cooling systems, people need to move huge amounts of water in short time. Let's take, for example, Asia. Such huge and growing economies need secure energy supply. And that means very often water management. That's exactly where CVPs come into play. Concrete volute pumps. They are basically pumps whose casing is made of concrete. For certain applications, CVPs have a few advantages over other pumps. First, they need less space and have a simple and rigid design. Second, concrete doesn't suffer corrosion. And third, it is available almost everywhere in the world, so you don't have to ship heavy parts around the globe. Sounds good, right? Let's take a closer look on the pump and its components. There are three main parts. First, we have the inlet bend, then the concrete volute, and third, the pull-out pump unit that is later connected to the drive motor. A very crucial part is the concrete volute. Using concrete volutes is a widespread technology in the hydro turbine business. Kaplan turbines have been applied with this technology for more than a century. Today, ANDRITZ is one of the global players and one of the biggest suppliers of hydraulic machines. So how is a volute made? Let's ask our expert, Winnie. Winnie is kind of an oracle when it comes to concrete volute pumps. Can you tell me how is a volute made?
Just before you start with the volute, you need to do the inlet bend. Means you place a wooden or steel formwork at the foundation plate of the later pumping station, put around reinforcement bars and pour the first concrete block. After that, we have three options to do the CV volute. We can use a formwork made of concrete, steel or wood. Which method is chosen depends on the size of pump, the number of pump and which medium is pumped. It means salt water, normal river water or brackish water. We did a lot of investigations to find out case by case the right solution for each different client. Let's start with the method where you use the concrete formwork. You use prefabricated elements which are made out of concrete. Depending on the size of the volute, the formwork is split into several parts. The parts are prefabricated in a concrete factory, therefore a special formwork has to be done there, and after that the parts are shipped to site. Then there is some work to be done before the volute is put in place. At site, the runner envelope is aligned to the inlet bend, placed, and another pour of concrete is done. This concrete layer is the base plate for the volute. In the next step, the prefabricated elements of the volute are positioned, aligned and bolted together. Depending on the material of the discharge pipe, a steel transition piece or a further formwork is mounted. Afterwards, the last pour of concrete is done and the concrete volute is finished. The advantage of this method is the following. No very accurate civil work has to be done at site. If the blocks are small, they fit in a semi-trailer and are easy to handle with mobile cranes. You can use this method for any kind of medium, even salt or brackish water.
And in what case would you use exactly this method?
I would use this method when the pumps are not too big and if I have a big number of pumps. Just imagine, for every block you need to manufacture a formwork in the concrete factory. If you have several pumps, it makes sense. If you have only one pump, it does not make any sense.
But what if the pump is really big, let's say 2 meters inlet diameter?
If the pump is that big, the concrete blocks will become big and heavy as well. So you might get difficulties to transport them to site and to position them at site with mobile cranes.
What would you do if the pump is medium size and only 1 or 2 units are requested?
I would use the steel liner option.
Can you tell me more about this method?
For the steel liner option, the formwork is made of steel. It's made in a steel factory and, depending on size, transported to site either in one piece or in different pieces which are welded together at site. To avoid deformation during the pouring process of concrete, the parts are equipped with stiffeners inside. As with the other method, first at site the runner envelope is aligned, placed, and a pour of concrete is done. This concrete layer is the base of the volute. It is positioned at site and connected with the pit liner. This is a component that will later be the connection between the volute and the pump unit. After concreting, the stiffening is removed and the steel liner remains in the volute. Means the surface of the volute is now steel and not concrete.
Why is the pump called concrete volute pump when it has a steel casing?
The casing is not a real casing. It cannot stand the pressure and the forces without being embedded in concrete. It's just a formwork to bring the concrete in its form. So the steel liner is only a thin layer inside of the concrete volute. That's why we call it concrete volute pump.
And for which application would you favor the steel liner option?
Let's say for small and medium-sized pumps, and also if you have a small number of pumps, because you have to fabricate a formwork for each pump. It's actually more suitable for freshwater applications, because the inner surface is made of steel and might corrode at saltwater applications.
What would you do if you had to build a very big and a large number of pumps?
I would use a wooden formwork. You can reuse it several times. We call this method in situ casting.
Okay.
Just like when you build a house, a wooden formwork is used for pouring the concrete. The formwork is made in a carpentry and shipped in reasonable parts to site. The weight of the formwork is, for its size, relatively low. It can be easily handled and placed by the construction crane. Reinforcement bars are positioned and the surrounding concrete is poured. After setting of the concrete, the formwork is pulled out and can be reused for the next pumping units.
All right. And for which applications would you favor the in situ casting method?
For large pumps, because the transportation of the formwork to site is pretty easy. And as the formwork production is pretty expensive, another big advantage is that you can reuse it several times if you have more than one pump. And in addition, you can use this method for all kinds of media, even salt water.
This sounds like the best option. Are there any applications where you wouldn't use this method?
Yes. For example, if the pump is very small, you cannot remove the wooden formwork without destroying it. Means you cannot reuse it again. Or if you have a very small number of pumps, then we would prefer to do a steel liner because it's simply cheaper. The concrete volute has been constructed with one of the before mentioned methods. Afterwards, the building is completed. The next steps, the pull-out pump unit and the motor is installed. So then, I hope my brief explanations were helpful to you for understanding concrete volute pumps. Nevertheless, the decision which option to choose has to be done for each project individually. There are many other factors to be taken into account. We support our customers to find the right solution for their project.